Forensic Science. Types of physical evidence at a crime scene, Part 2. Continuing the case we left behind. The void on Marcus Webb's desk. And the mystery of what used to sit there, Type 3. Transfer evidence. The evidence that proves contact transfer evidence is the physical embodiment of Locard's exchange principle. The proof that two surfaces made contact, even when no one witnessed it. When two objects touch, they exchange microscopic material. That exchange leaves a record, and that record can be found by someone who knows where to look. Here's the deeply unsettling way to think about. Every single object you have ever touched in your entire life now has a tiny piece of you living on it forever. Your childhood desk, that library book from 3rd grade. Somewhere out there, a microscopic ghost version of you is just hanging out on surfaces waiting to be discovered by a very committed lab technician. Trace evidence is the umbrella term for the tiny, often microscopic materials transferred during contact. Fibers from clothing, hair, human or animal, glass fragments, paint chips, pollen, soil particles, feathers, insect parts. A single fiber caught on a window latch can identify the exact type of fabric a suspect was wearing. Paint transfer on a vehicle can identify the make, model, and year of another car after a hit and run. Pollen on a suspect's shoes can place them in a specific geographic location that contradicts their alibi. Sound harmless, but pollen is basically nature's snitch. Different plants release pollen at different times of year in different regions with unique microscopic shapes under a microscope. So if you tell police you were in Sacramento all week, but your shoes are covered in pollen that only exists in a specific valley 3 hours away, congratulations, a flower just testified against you in court. DNA transfer evidence is the most powerful form and the most widely misunderstood. Television presents DNA as requiring a substantial sample, a blood pool, a full hair root, a clear biological deposit. In reality, modern DNA analysis can generate a profile from touch DNA, the microscopic skin cells left behind whenever a human hand makes contact with a surface. Basically, your hands are leaky faucets of your own identity, dripping DNA everywhere. This is precisely what broke the Sacramento case open. The touch DNA results came back from the desk surface, specifically from the area surrounding the dust void where the missing object had sat. The DNA profile didn't match Marcus Webb. It didn't match Daniel Rourke, whose DNA was expected at the scene. It matched a third person, a woman named Elise Farrow, Marcus Webb's accountant, who had left the country for Costa Rica 3 days after his death. She had been in that office recently enough to leave skin cells on a surface she touched, and she had taken something from that desk before she left. She had a plane ticket to paradise. What she didn't have was a way to untouch a desk. Type 4. Biological evidence. The evidence that carries identity biological evidence is the category most people associate with forensic science, and for good reason. It is the most personally identifying category of evidence that exists. Blood carries more forensic information than almost any other substance. Beyond DNA profiling, blood can reveal blood type, the presence of drugs or alcohol, certain medical conditions, and through serology, the study of bodily fluids, whether a stain is actually human blood or animal blood, and approximately how old it is. Hair with an intact root contains nuclear DNA, the most complete and most identifying form. Hair without a root contains only mitochondrial DNA, which can identify a maternal lineage but cannot individualize to a single person. Hair can also tell investigators whether a person uses certain drugs, undergoes specific medical treatments, or has been exposed to certain chemicals. Fun and slightly horrifying fact: your hair is basically a diary that never lies. Every substance that passes through your bloodstream gets permanently written into your hair shaft as it grows, like tree rings, except instead of measuring rainfall, it's measuring your worst decisions. Went on a bender in March? Your hair remembers. Forever. Nature really did not have to expose us like that.
I don't know, man.
Saliva on a cigarette butt, a drinking glass, or an envelope seal contains DNA. Skin cells left in touch contact contain DNA. Sweat contains DNA. Modern forensic biology can extract a usable profile from a sample visible only under a microscope. Forensic entomology, the study of insects at a death scene, is one of the most underestimated tools in biological evidence analysis. Blowflies arrive within minutes of death and begin a predictable biological life cycle governed almost entirely by temperature. Now, here's the part where you're allowed to say, okay, That's actually disgusting, because yes, someone's entire job is raising maggots in a lab, timing exactly how fast they grow, and using that as a stopwatch for death. It sounds like the worst science fair project imaginable, but it's also one of the single most reliable time of death tools available. Precise to within a few hours, even weeks after death. So, gross? Extremely. Useless? Not even a little. The toxicology screen on Marcus Webb's blood came back the following week. It confirmed what the faint almond smell had first suggested. Cyanide. Not a lethal concentration. A sublethal dose, administered over time. Consistent with chronic low-level poisoning. The kind that produces symptoms resembling a gradual cardiac decline. The kind that a busy doctor might look at and diagnose as heart disease. The kind that requires access, trust, and proximity. All three of which Elise Farrow had possessed for 4 years as Marcus Webb's personal accountant. She wasn't just cooking his books. She was cooking him, slowly, patiently, and with absolutely no sense of irony about the fact that she was murdering someone with the same precision she used on a spreadsheet. Type 5. Digital evidence. The evidence that never truly disappears. Digital evidence is the youngest category in forensic science, and the fastest growing. Every digital device a person uses generates a continuous record of their behavior. GPS location data, call logs, message history, app usage patterns, search history, browser activity, purchase records, cloud backups. Here's the part that should genuinely terrify anyone who has ever Googled something embarrassing at 2 a.m. Deleted files are rarely truly deleted. When you hit delete, your device doesn't actually erase the data. It just removes the label pointing to it, like tearing the table 7 inches, sign off a restaurant table while all the food is still sitting there. The data is still on the plate. Someone with the right tools can just walk up and read the menu. Metadata, the data embedded within files, tells a story that the file's content often doesn't. A photograph contains metadata recording the exact GPS coordinates, where it was taken, the device that took it, and the precise time down to the millisecond. This is the digital equivalent of that one friend who always exposes your lies without meaning to. You can tell everyone you were home all night, definitely not near that guy's office, but the second you send a selfie, that photo is quietly whispering GPS coordinates to anyone who knows how to ask. Network logs from routers and internet service providers record every device that connected to a network, at what time, and from what location. Even a phone that has been factory reset leaves connection records in the SB's infrastructure. Elise Farrow's phone records placed her at Marcus Webb's office building 3 times in the week before his death, on days she had told investigators she hadn't visited. Her deleted browser history, partially recovered by the digital forensics team, contains searches for cyanide symptoms, cardiac arrest mimicry, and, critically, the legal threshold at which cyanide poisoning becomes detectable in a standard autopsy. She had researched exactly how much would be undetectable. She had given him slightly more. Truly the most 2023 way to plan a murder. Extensive Google research, followed by getting caught anyway because she forgot the golden rule of the internet. Nothing you delete is actually gone. Ever. Not your browser history, not your embarrassing MySpace page, and apparently not your murder research either. The object on the decks weeks after Marcus Webb's death, Elise Farrow was extradited from Costa Rica, presumably mid-Pina Colada, though the record doesn't specify. The object missing from his desk, the one whose dust shadow had first caught ACSI's attention, was a small electronic air purifier that Marcus kept running continuously in his office. Standard carbon filters. Completely unremarkable. Except that the forensic chemistry unit, working on a long-shot theory, tested the filter from the replacement unit found in a storage closet, the one Elise had apparently swapped in during one of her final visits. The old filter, the one she had taken with her, was never recovered. But the air in a sealed room that has been exposed to cyanide leaves a trace in carbon filters. And the replacement filter, installed just days before Marcus's death, contains cyanide residue consistent with extended exposure in an enclosed space. She had poisoned the air he breathed, slowly, over weeks. Then swapped the filter before calling it in, leaving a room that smelled faintly of almonds to a single observant officer who wrote it down in 2 seconds before moving on. A woman who spent years managing a man's finances down to the last cent got caught because she forgot that air purifiers, like everything else in that office, were also collecting evidence against her the entire time. You cannot outplan physics. Physics doesn't negotiate, and it definitely doesn't take bribes. Elise Farrow was convicted of first-degree murder in November 2024,